Hey everyone, welcome to this next session. I hope you've been having a good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and enjoying all the different amazing, inspiring conversations that we've been having so far. And so, for this next session, I would love to welcome a panel conversation with ShapesXR founder Inga Petryaevskaya, Anand Das, Director of Mixed Reality at Meta, and Seter Wu, Senior Manager of Industrial Design at Logitech, who will give their perspective on where the technology and the market is going and when can we expect XR to become a mainstream reality that will enable the creative future we all want. So welcome to Around, Anand, Inga, and Seter.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, so where are you guys joining us from?
I'm today joining you from Barcelona as I'm also in parallel to this session attending Unity annual conference. And there is a lot of energy for XR, which is amazing.
Nice. What about you, Seter? Where are you at?
I'm in California.
Nice. Anand, same,
Same,
right?
California. So it's 9 o'clock here.
Cool. And I'm joining from Mexico. So we're all over the world. Nice. All right. Well, could you first give a little bit of an introduction about yourself? So we can start with you, Inga.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, it's incredible to be here. And, I love Daniela and Gravity Sketch, and we've been for a while in this industry and always over optimistic and dreaming about all in VR pipeline and backflows. So I'm, the CEO and founder of ShapesXR, and we are on the mission to enable better and more diverse content for the new medium, for the headsets and glasses. So we think that, iteration and real spatial design, when you can immerse yourself in the context of your user, in the context of this new medium, is super, super vital and important to build really incredible, memorable experiences and games and applications. So we kind of, allow people to be super iterative. And this topic is interesting for me. I'm always the optimist around XR for so many years already, but I keep being very, very optimistic because, there is so many pessimism around. You have to be like very positive, and probably my kind of focus is different from what Anand can say on when we get these 100 million headsets on the market. But yeah, so I think that we are just 5 years from now. Very close.
Yeah, I share with you that positivism. Yeah, that is always kind of like sometimes hard to keep up. What about you, Anand? Tell us a little bit about you.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us, Daniela. Also a big fan of Gravity Sketch and also Shapes and Logitech, but a super fan of the community. I think when new things get built, the first waves of adopters matter a lot more than the ones that come after that, because the first wave defines what your product is. Even though you might decide what your product is, ultimately the users will define that for you and they will keep you in business. And so the community around is really the community that's defining what the opportunity is. So excited to be here. All right. My role here is to figure out how we're going to incubate new software experiences on top of the Quest platform that will expand the audience and therefore drive more device sales. Because ultimately, if the device has to move beyond core gamers, you need new verticals, right? If it's fitness and wellness, productivity and collaboration, art, music, entertainment, sports, whatever it might be, we have to appeal beyond the core gamers who initially adopted this technology and are big. These are the people who you find on Steam and like Xbox and PlayStation. They're gamers by night, but they have things to do during the day. They're probably designers, they're probably artists, they're probably something else. So how do we make the product more relevant for them? And so I work with the third-party ecosystem to produce experiences that work really well on the headsets, which gives people a reason to buy and wear the headset every day for more use cases.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's kind of like the most important thing right now, right? If you don't have, for example, in your phone, if you don't have any apps, then the phone means nothing, right? So same for what you're doing. And Cedar, tell us about you.
Sure. I think Inga and Anand put this really well. We're in this community and we're shaping this community, shaping the future of XR. Um, my name is Peter and I'm an industrial designer. And right now I'm a senior industrial design manager in Logitech. And I am personally very passionate about XR and been following this for a really long time. And recently we just launched this guy. Hope this is super relevant to the topic we have today, the XR tech, how that pave the way for spatial design. So we just launched this stylus MX Ink, and this is the first XR uh, MR stylus that we already see developer using this tool to build so amazing apps. It's really cool, and I hope everybody get an opportunity to see this eventually. I believe we're going to have this available this month, and look forward to everybody to try this one.
I have this one at home.
You have a,
Not traveling with me, but yeah, it's a cool one.
You're showing off now, Inga. Not everybody does.
and as
So
our
much,
partner,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Anand saw the product as well.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, let's start kind of like diving deep. And yeah, basically like the idea for this panel is to talk about how is XR advancing. How are the different things that are happening? For example, in your case, Inga, you are creating the software to create software. Um, and then you're working with all of these different developers to figure out how are like the applications that are available going to be exciting enough to bring more people into the platform so that it actually becomes a tool that we all use. And then Cedar, your guys are working on what is it that we can put on top of the headset that will allow this technology to actually become a little bit more natural to us, and how we access this other space that we end up accessing when we put the headset on. And so all of you guys are always thinking about how can we develop this creative industry so that we can continue expanding. What's kind of like the future that you imagine, not a super far future, but like a really close future, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line? How do you think things, or what's the dream that you actually have for this industry connected to the creative industry?
I mean, I can kick this off. Probably it's not like super direct answer to your question, but more like thoughts and ideas. I believe that right now it's a very interesting state that we do have like accessible and comfortable hardware already. And I'm talking about various headsets, including like Quest 3, for example, or a headset from Piga, or any new headset. We already have the affordable hardware that almost any creator can buy. We have tools like Gravity Sketch, like ShapesXR, that would allow anyone to get started. And with Shapes in particular, it means that you can really, not being a developer, to go pretty far away with what you want to envision as an app, as a game. And you can do like game level design. You can prototype user interface. You can actually pitch and get funding from Anand without any Unity knowledge, and like sell the idea for the new vertical. And I think that very soon we will see more and more indie teams that generate great revenue, and you don't have to have like a big studio, a lot of upfront funding to build like great game to be successful on store. It's not only for games, for any app. We can see a lot of 2-3 people teams that are rocking it on store and generate millions of dollars in revenue, because again, the hardware is enough already to hit some numbers, especially if you're in consumer gaming industry. The tools allow you to really save a lot on development and really validate your ideas. So at some point you fail faster, which is also important, but you can also succeed, and you can run so many iterations that you can succeed much faster than you probably thought before. And I think the whole industry has become very accessible. And I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, when we started, 8 years ago, I mean, it was not accessible at all. And like the headset was so expensive, but the headset was not enough. You need a gaming creative PC or like super expensive laptop, to have the full setup, and there were no tools. So we were trying to combine everything, but unless you code, you can't really check anything in a headset. So it's overall has become very accessible. And I do believe that there is no obstacles for consumers or even enterprises when like we think about B2B sector. I mean, if you consider this as the important new medium, as important new computing platform, which is actually a great computing platform with a lot of capabilities that we do not have in real life or on flat screen. Because again, we all know already that XR enables so many incredible use cases that were just not possible, and it's always, when I see what people build in shapes for healthcare industry or aerospace industry, or like how universities are using it, you realize it's just impossible to replace. I mean, it will be extremely expensive to do that like in real life or with other ways. So that's why it's really ready for mass adoption. I mean, someone can claim, no, the headset form factor is still not there. I mean, yes, but I mean, again, the cost and the comfort are really, really, I think, already make a huge difference, and you can really spend quite some time in a headset. And again, we have tools and we have the ecosystem and there is funding available. So, and with all that as a whole, I believe that in pretty near future, I mean, we will have some triggers then, some incredible apps that almost every headset owner will have the reason to come back to the headset daily. And this is what we are all waiting for. So for some people, it's gaming, use case, and you keep coming back, or fitness, but we need many more also in productivity, so that it becomes like integral part of your whole setup. For example, I mean, I go with headset, I only need Wi-Fi in my headset, and I can do a lot. I can do my job. But I know that I'm quite unique so far, but I want to see more and more people. And I already know a lot of development teams for whom, having a headset in hands already is actually all about having job done and not just a laptop. So I stop here. I mean, it's still not about spatial design, but like I let Cedar and Anand say what they see as the state of the art and happening soon.
I know you want to go first. I will be the last.
Sure. I mean, it's hard to predict the future, so I don't know what next 4 to 5 years will look like. But
Tell
I
this to
think
investors.
I do think three things will likely become true. The first thing that I think will become true is it'll go from being a thing we have to educate people to a thing where people are like, why aren't you doing this in spatial? I say this with conviction because I saw this wave in the cloud era, and I saw this in the mobile era too. Like, I'm assuming a lot of people in the audience here are in the design domain, which means industrial design, architecture, engineering, construction, product design. So feel free to drop your comments in there to tell us what you guys work on, so we know who we're talking to, because kind of we don't know who's the audience. But I'm assuming that's the majority of the folks. And I go back to like this time when mobile happened, where if you look at a product manager's roadmap or a CIO's roadmap, like all the features were web features, and mobile was like an afterthought. And nobody ever asked the question, what's your mobile roadmap for like an internal tool? Or nobody asked the question like, what's your app strategy for a consumer facing product? It just didn't exist. And you then saw the first glimpses of HTML5, and you saw people having X buttons on like mobile apps. I don't know how many of you guys worked on mobile back in the day. And now nobody asks the question like, what's your mobile strategy or mobile roadmap? The question is like, why do you have even web on here? You should be just doing mobile first. And I think we'll get to that spot in like 5 years where product work, whatever might be the end product or project work, will get asked. There will be a line item in your product roadmap or your backlog or your budgets, which literally say like, what are we doing here? Second thing that I think will become true is like it took a while for cloud, for example, to become the default, right? Like you had CIOs and you had uh, tech folks saying, no, no, we're going to build software on premises and not build it in the cloud. And now it's flipped. And it's primarily because you can do the math and be very clear what the savings are. Super, super easy. I don't think we're there yet for workflows in XR. Um, and so I think building the business case to become like no brainer is the magical unlock that will help sell more software and therefore sell more headsets. And I don't think the business value equation has been fully established. It's established in specific domains, but mostly in areas where CIOs and CTOs like are forward thinking. So I think that'll change. I also think that the natural course of like headsets getting lighter, better, faster, cheaper, all that will just like happen. Um, but to me, I think the biggest unlock here in the next 4 years has to be customer value. And I actually think, Daniela, like the cloud's been around for 20 years. And if you just go like do a Google search on cloud software spending, you'll still notice most of the spend is on premises after 20 years. And yet you have an Amazon, you have an Azure, you have a Google Cloud, and you have like bunch of other like cloud hosting providers. What that tells me is like even for a technology like cloud that's been 20 years out in its adoption journey, there's so much headroom to grow. And so when we look at the XR journey, I think the next 4 years is to get to a tipping point where we get the right to flip the math as an industry, saying like we should do this in XR. And then I think the next 20, 30 years is just going to be like growth. And I tell this to all the founders I work with just to survive. Like be a cockroach, don't die, survive, because it is inevitable this will happen. Nobody can control the rate at which it happens. And I think the unlock is to quantify value.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Inga and I can speak about being cockroaches for a really long time. We're getting there. And yeah, we see every day things are just like going faster and faster, and more people are like starting to open the door. So yeah, remembering from where we're going back, Inga, you were talking about like the setup, 8 years ago, it was just like full of cables. It was just such a crazy thing. So definitely we're getting there. And so I'm excited about that future that you both are presenting. So Cedar, tell us about what you're imagining.
Yeah, I heard from another Inga that, and I feel the same way that this community or the MX MR world shift so much, and there's some flat time, then it's coming up again. And I hope that this will bring us to a totally new level. And I think that's very possible because we see different platform that's more accessible. For example, Quest. I love Quest 3. It's so good and it's super accessible. And I think that accessibility allow more users to get into this world. And I see already in the comments, people are very interested in MX Inc. And I think there's a need, there's a lot of excitement for our community to get access to better tool for creating the content in MR. And once that happened, when it's like a YouTube videos, it will explode, and there will be so much 3D content created in the MR space, then the whole thing become much bigger. And hopefully at some point the hardware is good enough to be embedded in everybody's life, and the 3D content is already there to enable us to live in that space for much longer time compared right now. Until you put on your goggle, when you're putting a headset, you will be feel disconnected from that world. So I think that can be a big shift in next few years. And I think for the audience, I'm probably most connected to this audience because I'm an industrial designer, and I understand how a 3D, a lot of things that we do is actually design in 3D, and the benefit of MIs to enable us to remove the um, cognitive load in our brain to translate, looking at the 2D image and translate the 3D image in our brain. That makes the technology makes this much more accessible for everyone. There will be more people joining to create 3D content.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And I think, yeah, in the future, like we're gonna all be laughing about this panel right now. It's gonna be funny to watch this like in 10 years and hear ourselves talking about like in the future this is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. And yeah, you're right, Cedar, about like, yeah, everyone that has been, and we're all three-dimensional beings, right? Like that's why this technology is so exciting for everyone, not just designers, not just gamers, but should be exciting for everyone, right? Because now it's the moment where we bring that like digital world that we're so used to like interacting with, but into the real space, like the three-dimensional space that we all live in. And as designers, I always, at Gravity Sketch, we always love to show a picture of Picasso. Later on, I'm going to show it in another presentation, but it's Picasso painting in space with light. And so we always love to show this picture because it shows how everyone in the creative industry and many humans have been looking to express themselves three-dimensionally, but we didn't really have the tools back then. We're still kind of like working on them, but now we're living in this amazing moment where we have the possibility to actually get these tools and be able to express ourselves and to create three-dimensionally in the most natural way. And so now, we spoke about the future, like, the amazing future that we envision. And spoke about like the Picasso example of like even he was trying to express himself in 3D. And so why hasn't it happened yet? We've been at this for 10 years, right? So the first Oculus Rift came out in 2013, I believe. And so why isn't it just kind of like the natural thing right now to do?
I have a strong opinion about this.
Go for it, Anand. That's why you're in the panel.
By the way, Matthew Connors, I see you. Yes, for those of us who've been working on this for a while, looks like you've been working on this since 2008. So yes, please stay in the good fight. To answer your question, Daniela, like I think we should challenge the premise of the question. I think we set ourselves up for a trap as an industry by inflating expectations when we say it is coming. Like the moment is coming, and it's going to like flip. That is setting the bar so high that you're always going to get asked like, when is a flip happening? When is a flip happening? It's just waiting to get asked a question that is like not aligned with like how technology evolution goes. I'm going to go back to this is why I like started with like cloud, right? Like it doesn't happen in 20 years. Like the spend has not flipped. What you're going to see is like slowly the curves will keep going up into the right, and then some point somebody will wake up and write an article, and then they'll say it's flipped. So I don't think like you can flip anything. We can't flip anything as an industry. We just have to keep like incrementally adding value, and then someone will rewrite the narrative, saying this was the moment in which it actually flipped. And so I would urge us to reframe the question as like, instead of saying there's a lot of excitement, when will this flip? I'll actually say it's inevitable. It's going to be a journey to get to the inevitable point. You're either on the bus or you're off the bus. That's it, right? And nobody ever got, I don't know if you guys remember the personal computing and I wasn't there for it because this was before my time. But like there used to be a saying, nobody ever got fired for buying IBMs. Then it became nobody ever got fired for buying Microsoft products. Then nobody ever got fired for like buying Salesforce. Like there will come a time when nobody ever gets fired for buying spatial. In fact, they will get fired if they don't have a spatial strategy. Like, and I think our job is to get there. And I think it's going to be a journey. It won't be a binary yes, no. So that's my strong opinion.
Yeah, I can actually double counter that. Even with cloud computing, that's absolutely right. So when I joined AMC in 2010, it's been already 10 years in cloud computing. It was so hard to sell cloud computing. No one believed in that and saying that, no, we have our own data center. On-premise is the only way to go. And machine learning back in Siemens, my research projects were around like some early days of machine learning and neural networks, and then, oh my gosh, like 20 years later, you have the real AI kind of finally shaping. I think that even though we reflect to the first Oculus Rift, it's been, and that's why probably it helps me to be like super optimistic. And I still believe that it's going fast. I mean, it can be faster, but I still believe that it's actually kind of comparable pace to other technologies, probably even to
Actually, it's
iPhone.
faster. Sorry to interrupt, Inga. There's a
Yeah,
chart that shows like mobile, the same
yeah.
normalized time horizon versus XR, and the curve is like steeper for XR. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. And what we have now, it's not just like that, it's standalone headset. Okay, it's standalone, and we have mixed reality with understanding of the environment around us, with the depths, with everything. It's a lot of machine learning happening in the headset. Hand tracking, now we can finally rely on hand tracking, new types of inputs, including like Logitech MX ink stylers. It's actually a long way to go. So we have standalone mobile headset, and like you, Danielle, and myself, again, we have standalone mixed reality, hand tracking, eye tracking, and like so many things in this headset, and just under $500, which is like make it unbelievably incredible. And I'm on a conference, my daughter is trying to to get in, so that's why the pace is actually doesn't feel slow. I mean, what is frustrating is that sometimes people who kind of whose job is, let's say, really explore the technology, do not spend enough time in a headset. And I'm trying to fight against that. Like, if you claim yourself to be an XR designer, you really have to put the headset on, because like, why would you design something for us to to use it in a headset, and you only spend all your time in Figma or in Blender or somewhere else, right? So I mean, I don't trust it. I mean, there are some successful examples, definitely, and I'm not talking only about ShapesXR. No, it's like you have to be in the medium that you're building for as a designer, right? And when we are talking about spatial design, it's really about like immerse yourself as soon as possible. Try to understand, the specifics of this medium and what is super important, what ergonomics is all about. Because also the early days of apps, when people, I still like right now at Unite, I met several people. Yes, I tried headset, I was motion sick, and they're telling the stories like from 4 years ago, from 5 years ago. But I mean, who to blame about it? To some extent, also designers, because sometimes you don't really build the app that doesn't make you feel motion sick, that ignores all the ergonomics and all important aspects of, how people should move in VR, how people should teleport, how they should, interact with content around you, right? Even on Apple Vision Pro right now, what I think they could improve, there is no curation, and Meta did the same. Now App Lab, everything is just like one pool of apps. But when you go on Apple Vision Pro, I think something that is dangerous is that you do have millions of apps in there, but so many are just so bad, in design, that it just, ruins the whole user experience. You can't select anything with your eyes, you can't pinch that, and you get so disappointed, right? And some users can like say, okay, the VR is not there yet, I tried it, it's just like not there yet. So as designers, we are super responsible to build something magical, feels like bone spatial and meaningful, to play with that in a headset. Because if I see some yet another iPad app, I don't really understand why should I be in a headset. I can do that on an iPad, right? So, or on my phone. There should be the reason. There should be like a lot of spatial UI, a lot of interesting interactions, a lot of interesting UX. And finally, spatial design is not just like XR apps. Spatial design is industrial design, as you mentioned, but it's also about designing for the real world experiences. And what we have is, let's say, on Quest, these shared spatial anchors, for example. I mean, we couldn't even dream about that, but now we can design like incredible mixed reality collocated experiences. Like we can all anchor and like be in this room scale mode and design together. It's, I don't know, it makes things possible that were completely not possible. They're still not possible, even in the real world. Like you can design at scale, being in the same room, anchoring digital objects in your physical space. And then when you come back in next session, the objects are still there. So I think the designers have incredible tools and hardware in hands, and we are actually responsible for building great and beautiful and polished apps that allow people appreciate this medium.
100% Inga, and I think you're right. Like I hear, I mean, probably all of us hear the same stories, right? Like, oh no, I got motion sick for testing it for like 5 minutes. And yeah, like 5 years ago, in a very, very terrible app that nobody thought about, like all the things that you need to figure out so that people don't actually get motion sick. I mean, some people will get motion sick, but
But
it's
this is 1% of all users who can't
exactly like
go on the plane. Yeah.
exactly like almost no one, right? And so yeah, there's this big, big, big responsibility. Well, first now we have to figure out, and probably Anand, you're kind of like working on this with all of the developers, and within Meta, you're also trying to figure out how to change people's mindset towards VR, because people had those experiences early on, right? And now nobody wants to, like, not nobody, but like a lot of people are afraid of touching it, right? And so how are we now changing that perception that people have, that it's so strong? Or, you know, people being super scared of like wearing these things. I mean, and you were talking about you know, in the future that you imagine, like everyone really just like it would be a no-brainer. It would be also like you would almost get fired for not having a spatial strategy. But then we all keep thinking about, but you still need to be wearing something in your face, and it's still going to be like a weird thing. Why would you actually need to have something like that if like a computer is perfectly normal? And Inga, you touched on it, right? Like you touched on, you know, like the experiences that we're getting in all of these platforms are basically just copy paste experiences from like the iPad, or you know, the screen based solutions that we already see. So very few people are really diving deep into trying to figure out what's the interesting thing that this technology is bringing to the table. And so I would be interested to hear, Anand, how are you working with everyone, like all of the developers that you're working with, to make sure that these experiences get better, but also to change the image that XR has in general in the world?
Good question. I want to reset the tone of this conversation a little bit because I agree with Matthew Connor's comment and watching the comments that's flowing through. Like we've come a long way from DK1, as he says, put away the barf bags. Like I think we're as an industry a super self-critical bunch because we have to push and create a future together that doesn't exist, and the only way you do that is be continuously dissatisfied with the status quo. But I think like at some point we have to just like acknowledge the fact that people is a wrong definition of the market. Like there's no such thing as people. There's like designers and there's artists and then there's like people who work out. And I, you have like my strong belief is you have to create experiences that serve specific jobs, and you can't like change people's perception overnight. You can change cohorts, and then at some point become inevitable. And so strategy number one is like serve specific problems before you can serve general problems. Um, and so the push that you saw 4 years ago with like productivity and collaboration and fitness and wellness and a lot of these use cases are designed to expose new kinds of audiences for problems that they specifically have where the headset is infinitely better than phones and PCs. Just tackle that and do that really well, because for those people, this product will become incredibly sticky, which is what we're seeing in the numbers. And then they will bring in more people in their lives into the headset, which actually goes to the second strategy, which I think Patrick Thornton like raised this comment, like there's two worlds, the haves and the have-nots, people who have the headsets and have believed and people who are not in the headset. And those two don't talk to each other. And that's like the fundamental unlock. So when we work with developers, obviously like quality is like really, 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 really important. So we don't want to taint expectations, and which is why like over the last like at least in 4 years that I've been doing this job, like ruthlessly focused on what comes to the store has to meet a certain bar. If it does not, it actually taints consumer expectations and we get turned away, right? So we've kept the quality bar high. But I think the other thing that I always tell founders, especially where products like touch real people's lives and real life workflows. So forget gaming for a second, because you go into a gaming experience and you escape, and you'll go into a watching experience disconnected from reality, but where there's workflows, whether it's your work or your fitness or you're learning something, you always have to have work companion experiences that live on mobile or on PC. And if you don't, you're basically cutting out 98% of the market who could know about your product, but you don't, but they can't. You remember when first Zoom launched or like when Microsoft launched email? Like virality is embedded into the share link in the signature of the email. Like every design product should have a share link and it should be like in your signature that you can actually share so that execs who typically adopt technology later can still join from the PC and they get a experience while the designer who's a super user is in the headset. And then over time, the exec is like, I want to try what that thing is. Like, give them FOMO. But I think like you have to have the bridges into like non-VR platforms to suck that audience in. That would be sort of the second thing I would call out.
Cool. Thanks for that. And I think Siter would be great because now, like, Anand is working on the actual experiences and how to bring that adoption bar lower. In your case, you guys are working on something like on the hardware, right? Like on something external, something that allows people to be able to interact within the experiences that people get to experience within XR. And so it would be interesting to hear, how are you thinking about this? Because you're using a pen, right? Like a stylus that tends to be a very physical object, something that we're used on using in the real world. And now you're looking to bring it into the virtual world. And so what are these things that you are looking to keep as like these very natural ways of interacting, but also like how are you combining it with the magic of the virtual world?
Yeah. At first, I want to say I think Inga and Anand, they're building the foundation, and this foundation would allow us to create more. And what we're doing here is build on top of that and allow this to be able allow this platform, the foundation, to be able to amplify its usability. And Logitech has been building tools for productivity and creativity for decades. And now the spatial computing era, what do we do with that? I think it's important for us to try really hard to enable that as well. How we can enable the people to be productive and creative in the spatial computing time. And I think MXR Inc. is our first try. And I'm pretty sure there'll be more new generation coming from not only Logitech, but from a lot of other parties, because we see last time when I was in AWE, I really feel the excitement that there's a lot of a lot of progress made over the last few years. But at the same time, when I walk out of AWE, I feel disconnected to that. But again, I want to say that when you're in AWE, you feel it's the same community, and that the community is helping to growing this industry, and that's going to eventually expand to the mass. And my thought is how we can motivate the whole community, not us, like make the platform, make the device, but also the users to engage into this and help us to make this industry become mass adopted. I think that would be the time that the whole thing will change. And that should be referred to what Anna mentioned, the flip.
Great. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, well, I'll put a little bit of my 2 cents here, because I think something that we kind of like been touching on, but not really, is that, we spoke about mobile, we spoke about web, we spoke about cloud, we spoke about like now XR and all of these different technologies. Like all of these different technologies haven't kind of like completely replaced the other ones, right? And I think that's something that we're all starting to, like, as an industry, realize that it's not about thinking about this technology as a silo kind of thing. It's more like, how do we think about it as an ecosystem that exists with all of the different tools that we also use? I think that's really important, that I'm starting to see a lot of XR experiences beginning to think in this way, which is, I think, a big step towards that. And then I think the other one, which, if you don't get to experience it, you don't think about it so much, but the fact that you're able to be in the same space as other people that are not necessarily the same room than you, in a way it feels like very gamer oriented, or it feels like very much like futuristic and so on. But when you actually get to experience that, when you get to collaborate with someone in the same space, you understand the power of this technology, full stop. Like, you don't have to have anything else besides being next to another person that is probably in China and have a conversation with them. And so all of these things, like, you don't get. And Inga, you spoke about like the spatial anchors and so on. Like, the crazy thing here is that people don't get to experience them that often. And so we're kind of like in a chicken and egg situation where people will never get to experience them, therefore they will never get kind of like super passionate and motivated to jump into VR. And so it's kind of like that crazy moment that I imagine, Anand, that, as you said, like, eventually will happen. We just need to keep surviving. But it's a little frustrating to just not be able, like, not to be able to give people those experiences as easy as other experiences in other platforms.
I mean, there always will be some, resistancy and adoption curve. It's still hard to believe that Uber started with iPhone 1 and they were going to the garages and giving the phones to drivers. And drivers were like, no, 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 it's so hard. I mean, I can't use this phone. And they were teaching them and explaining them. So it will take a while for everyone. And there was some comment here that we want to build a headset that even a grandmother enjoys and stuff. But when our grandmothers were, starting using smartphones, we all helped them, right? It was not like that easy as well. So it will happen. And it's more than communication. I think the feeling of co-presence is unbelievable when you say like someone from China or someone from Mexico and California. We can do that in Zoom, but it's so different when you are kind of in the same space. You can interact, you can even to some extent do high five, and it's so impressive, but people have to try it, as you said. So we have to, and that's why, the more apps and the more software and incredible reasons for people to go and try it. Like for some, it will be meditation, and that's why we need those consumer and wellness and fitness. For others, it will be like at work, they experience that and they come back. We see that a lot. Like, oh, I use ShapesXR at work, but then I came home and redesigned my kitchen and my son helped me because we have 2 Quest 3 and stuff like that, And this is how probably the adoption will happen. There was some comment here like, guys, kind of don't pretend, didn't you feel kind of uncomfortable 10 minutes after being in Quest 2? No, I was comfortable in Quest 2 for 1 hour or 2 hours. I mean, yeah, so we don't underestimate the fact that you can't spend 8 hours in a headset. That's fine. But you can get your answers and you can do some incredible piece of your job, like, whether you use Petryaevskaya to model something like so much faster that you save so much time, and then you can go back and work on the details. And as Daniela said, it can be combination of tools and backflows, and it's not replacing entirely your current backflow. So you do the initial sketch there, and then you go and keep working in your software. Or let's say spending 1 hour in Shapes in a headset might save you days and weeks, and iterations, and redoing what you've built in Unity off scale or wrong distances, or you kind of missed this and that point. So spending time spatially is sometimes really helpful to speed up the development and shipment of your product like tremendously. But we do not claim that you can spend like 8 hours, but there are so many like fitness. 1 hour is enough for you to enjoy the headset, like do your fitness and like checkbox, or like wellness apps. So, but we agree that you still combine headset with your phone or with your laptop, and that's so the time is extending. Right now I think it's comfortable to spend like 2 hours nonstop in a headset or more, especially in mixed reality. Again, the stylus is very natural type of input compared to controller. And but we do not underestimate, but 10 minutes, come on, you can definitely spend more.
Come on. And yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the people that are like joining XR today are a little bit spoiled. Like if you knew how it was before, you would be so grateful of like where the headsets are right now. But yeah, 10 minutes, come on.
Yes.
2 hours for sure. I know people that have spent 8 hours in a headset. It's like they're a bit crazy, but they've done it.
I want to
Yeah.
share my experience using the Gravity Sketch for the first time. As an industrial designer, I work a lot in 3D, and the first time I think I had a Quest 2. For sure, it's not better than Quest 3. And back then, when I first time have it, and I realized in Gravity Sketch, it's so easy to model something, and I built a little jewelry based on my dog. It's Schnauzer, and it took me 2 hours. That was my actual first time using Gravity Sketch. So it takes so short a time for me to build that, and of course the headset gave me motion sickness. But I was so excited that I can use this new tool to build something so quickly, and I fight through the motion sickness and finished the thing that night. So I do think there are two type of people that in designer. One, for sure, all the designer focus on the craft, and there type of designer like really focus on using the tool they were very comfortable and make it really good. And there are other type of designer trying new different tools, and I think I'm the second type that try new tools and that enjoy the excitement of using new tool to build something I need to achieve.
And so I want to, well, first, it would be amazing to see that thing that you designed, Cedar, for your dog. And so I want to jump into the questions from the audience to make sure that we have some time to answer them. So there's this first one from Matthew Connors. What do you feel like has been the biggest aha moment for public adoption of XR tech?
Quest 2. I mean, like going from tethered headsets to mobile headsets was a big aha moment, but I think that it was more Quest 2 than Quest 1 for various reasons, and we know the reasons. It's the question is like, has been the biggest aha moment for public adoption. What is going to be the next one? It's keep, it's releasing the headset that's comfortable and with pre-installed some incredible app that fits you. I mean, you select them and you find the app that really make you sticky will be the aha moment. But yeah, it's a tough question to answer, to be honest. The biggest, I mean, super light glasses, with beautiful field of view, incredible resolution, super sharp, great performance, like everything we have on a computer, but at the same time you can wear it and you don't need controllers and still be super efficient. I think that the most, like, if you talk about mass adoption and consumers, the biggest thing people still complain about is it's heavy, it's uncomfortable. And we can definitely give a lot of arguments why it's so much more comfortable than it used to be, and why you can definitely spend a couple of hours in a headset and get efficiency. But for a lot of people, they think it looks weird and it's heavy and it's not fully there yet. So that's probably the aha moment, when you have super powerful glasses that you can use inside and outside, and it's always some sort of like you have so many different apps that you keep using them. Like you can't really go out without it. Like we are now addicted to our phones because we can have all type of apps for work, for education, for entertainment, and for leisure activities. So that's why our iPhone or like smartphone is always with us. But Anand, I don't know, you probably do a lot of research around that and surveys. What the aha moment for public adoption is going to be?
When people can experience things they saw in Hollywood movies, that's when it'll be the aha moment. I think for the previous generation, it was Minority Report. For this generation in user research studies, I forget the movie that keeps getting quoted. I don't know if you guys remember, at least folks in the US. Do you guys remember Clueless Closet? I mean, the movie Clueless.
like the
Chris,
super chick flick movie.
or she goes to a closet and she does that, and then like the clothes change and she picks one, right? Like it's like these. I think Hollywood has set such a high bar. Yeah, like Dara said, like Matrix and Ready Player One. I
Mhm.
think that's the aha moment. Like nobody cares about like anything else because in all those movies, or some of those movies, people are wearing like clunky headsets. No one bothers talking about the clunky headsets, right? It's just like the magic
Yeah.
of the experience. So I think that's the aha moment, and we're not very far off from those aha moments.
And people
Um,
are advising like Matrix, Ready Player One, Clueless. Yeah.
Iron Man. Well,
I think though that if you can afford it, I would strongly suggest people forget Quest 2 and buy Quest 3. I think color
Yeah,
is
color.
something else. It's like when movies switched from like black and white to color, there's no going back, or television switched. The moment color happens, like it's a game changer. Holy smokes, and then you don't need the controllers and you can go hands and you can pick up the stylus and you can write. Like those little like small micro aha moments, but I think color is a big one.
Yeah, I also want to build on that. I'm not sure it's for public adoption, but for me, the aha moment is when I try um, Quest 3 and the color pass through make a so big difference. You feel immediately connected to the real world. You don't feel disconnected, and then you start to merge the virtual object with the physical world. I think that's the aha moment for me. And like you guys mentioned earlier, you have to try it, and you tried it, then you will feel that.
yeah. I agree with that. That color pass through is like I remember the first time that we tried it in the Gravity Sketch studio. Some of the engineers were trying it out. They've been using VR for a really long time, but then they tried this one, and then I can't remember the exactly like the words that he used, but he thought it was like he was like somehow there was like it was open, like that he was seeing like the real world like for real, and I was like, wow, like this is like just going to change things. And we've seen it in Gravity Sketch. Like now people are really like using that to design in the real world, right? And that's important. But that moment was like so like I just remember it so vividly because it was so funny. Like he had a lot of he wasn't new in VR, but still it just like tricked his brain so much that he thought it was just like, seeing the world.
It was Quest Pro for me, like the first colored pass through, right? Um, Even though it was like a little bit old colored TV, but that was like, wow. So that's the right direction.
And Patrick, I agree with what Patrick said in the comments. It's going to be a bunch of small moments that add up.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. We have time for one last question or comment that we want to comment on. Anand, you've been reading the comments. If you want to, like, if there's one that catches your eye.
Everyone wants the Stylex sooner, Cedar. So what's the
I
plan to
heard
get it
that.
out to more people and more countries? I guess is the question I have. Because it's
I
already
will give
here, right?
you this month, and hopefully, but they can get their hands on it very soon.
Nice. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for joining us today. It's been really interesting. A very interesting panel as I expected it to be. There's a lot of dreams for the future. There's a lot of dreams that are already being, made reality in the present. There's a lot of really incredible experiences within XR. The headsets that are available, especially not because Anand is here, but like the Meta headsets are quite kind of like the favorite of everyone these days. They've been doing an amazing job. And we can't really wait for the Logitech stylus to come out. I think I speak for every single designer that is into designing in VR. Like we're just waiting for it.
Let it be the
So
aha moment for a lot of creators.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Daniel, I'll just say that Meta Connect is next week.
Yeah.
So just a plug, not because I work at Meta, but because you will probably get a lot more like signals and insights and user stories. So tune in is I think it's like completely free online, so you can just watch it if you're excited about XR.
Yeah.
We'll see you on Meta Connect as well.
Yeah. Oh, like do tune in because it's always really, really exciting. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks a lot for
Thank
having
you.
us. Thank you for your questions, guys.